Are you one of those unlucky people who receives money or income before it is taxed? Then this video is for you, and I'm going to explain exactly what I mean when I say unlucky. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about freelancers. I'm talking about side hustlers. I'm talking about independent contractors, people who are self-employed. So in any situation, if you receive your income before it is taxed or without it being taxed by SARS, then I think you need to listen carefully. As an independent contractor, remember what normally happens is that obviously the word independent means that you are independent maybe from your clients and you work separately from your clients. Self-employed, similar situation. You work for yourself, you earn revenue or income by yourself. Even if we're talking about your side hustles, normally if you're just doing a side hustle, chances are people are paying directly into your bank account. And the money that you receive from all of those opportunities, even the freelancers, whether you are an artist, whether you are, doing consulting work, the whole idea of you being a freelancer is that you are actually receiving money from your clients, and the money that you actually receive, it's without withholding tax. Well, in most instances, anyways. Now I'm talking about this issue because I've received a lot of questions, and I see that it does cause a lot of confusion to say, actually, I don't pay tax. What happens in my situation is I receive money, but am I outside of the tax grid, or am I operating off grid when it comes to taxes? And the answer really is no. So today I want to talk about how do taxes really work for people who are working in these as these professions that I've mentioned: freelancers, self-employed, etc. Now let's just look at the traditional scenario of people who work or people who are employed. People who are employed, who work for companies, whether it's government, private companies, or whatever. You get a salary, and your employer would typically withhold your PAYE, UIF, and so on and so on, pension, provident, medical, I don't know, whatever the arrangement that you have. But the principal arrangement with an employment is that your employer becomes responsible to withhold taxes and pay those taxes over to the receiver of revenue, which is SARS here in South Africa. Now, you as a freelancer, independent contractor, self-employed, / whatever, you are operating as the opposite of an employee, because you can either send an invoice to the person that you've done work for, or whether you're doing a side hustle, people will pay you money or just deposit money into your account. And there is no that relationship where in an employer-employee situation, the employer would withhold certain portion, pay over to SARS, then they will send you a payslip. And the whole reason behind the payslip is that an employee can then see what exactly has the employer withheld, how much have they paid over to SARS, what are the deductions, what is my gross, and then what is my net. The net obviously being the amount that you end up receiving in your hands. Like I said, independent contractors, freelancers, you guys are the opposite. You are the opposite of this situation, because the money that you get it as it is. No one anywhere has withheld anything. If your client pays you, there is no withholding of any sorts. So now that's where the trick comes in. Is this to say that you have escaped the tax? No, not necessarily. Is this to say that you are operating off grid? No, not necessarily. So how do taxes really work? Now, the assumption is that if you are an independent contractor, if you are a freelancer, if no one is responsible for withholding taxes when they pay you, only if you look at your income groups, if you've got income from projects, income from freelancing, income from this and that, and you don't have income from employment where an employer has withheld and paid over to SARS, it means that the assumption in that kind of a scenario is that you are responsible for your own taxes. You are what is called in SARS terms, or in tax terms, you are considered to be what is called a provisional taxpayer. What that means is that you as a person, independent contractor, freelancer, whatever the title is, self-employed, whatever the title is. And by self-employed, let me just maybe double click on that. Self-employed, there are people who are self-employed, but they are operating under a company. They've registered a company and they do business under a company. Then there are those who are self-employed and they do work under themselves, as themselves. For example, when clients pay, they pay in their own personal bank account details. I'm talking to those people. I'm not talking to those that have registered separate companies. That's a whole different scenario. Today, I'm addressing those who do business, side hustles, self-employed, etc., but they are using their own name, their own personal bank account is the one that clients pay their money in, their remuneration and their income in. As long as you are that person who receives money in their personal capacity, I'm talking to you. What is the situation? How does it work? You are called a provisional taxpayer. You have not escaped the tax man. You are not having a free ride from the system. No. How it works is that you are called you are known as what is called a provisional taxpayer. And here in South Africa, provisional taxpayer, the rules are that each provisional taxpayer needs to file taxes every 6 months. So from March to August, you will have to file your first provisional tax. What is a provisional tax return? Is just you saying to SARS, within the first 6 months, this is how I have worked. I also estimate that at the end of the year or at the end of the 12-month period, I would have made, for example, I estimate based on how I'm working now for the first 6 months, I estimate that I would have made $1 million. So SARS, if I'm estimating that I would have made $1 million in a 12-month period, what is the tax on this $1 million? And then that amount can be calculated. Then you say, okay, SARS, because we are halfway through, I'm going to give you half of the tax that I will be liable for at the end of the year. So the first 6 months, you would have to declare and pay your first provisional taxes. And then at the end of the year, in February, another 6 months. So the second time around, you would have to do your second provisional tax return. So then we revisit the situation at the half-year mark to say, at the half-year mark, you said, SARS, you're expecting to make $1 million. Now we have actually reached the end of the year. How much did you actually make? SARS, I actually didn't make that $1 million that I was estimating. I've then made 800. But remember, I paid you half of what I thought would be my taxes, having estimated that my annual income would have been $1 million. Now I didn't reach $1 million. Now we just have to then do an updated calculation using your actual income to determine what amount is remaining of your liability to SARS. Sounds complicated, but in its simplest form, as a provisional taxpayer, every 6 months, you need to be filing a provisional tax return, declaring to SARS your earnings and paying half. That's the first provisional tax return. At the end of the year, you need to do an actual assessment to say the year has come to an end. Now I've earned this much. Now how much is due? What is the balance that is due? So no one is taking a free ride on the system. Provisional taxpayers actually, it's unlucky because now you have to take care of your own tax responsibilities. It's like an additional problem or an additional thing that you have to worry about. That's why I referenced it to say, if you're one of those unlucky people, now you have to find someone to help you with your calculations, to help you with your taxes as far as that is concerned. But it's quite important to know that if you are receiving additional money outside of your salary, if your money or your income comes in before anyone withholds and pays over to SARS, that means that automatically, by assumption, you are deemed to be one who is responsible for their own taxes. So you must then take responsibility and make sure that you are filing the necessary provisional tax returns. If you don't do that, there's quite hefty penalties associated with non-filing of provisional taxes. And yeah, it can quickly escalate. So make sure that before you do a lot of contracting, you do a lot of freelancing, you do a lot of projects outside of maybe employment, even your side hustles. Sometimes it's better to think, is it better to do the side hustles under a company? But also with that, it comes with its own responsibilities. And also to check, what is my tax bracket if you are employed? If I add a side hustle, where does it put me? Because the side hustle and things that you do over and above employment, those are some of the things that you need to be adding on top of the income that you are already earning. So there's nothing that needs to go off grid, and you don't need surprises. You don't want surprises during tax season to say, actually, there's additional funds that you need to be declaring and adding on, only to find that the money, you've already used it for something else. You didn't think to put aside a certain percentage for taxes. So freelancers, please don't be ignorant. Think about this and make sure that you have a tax number you are doing your provisional taxes, you've got someone who assists you. Sometimes it's better to just estimate, to say in a year of assessment, how much do I make more or less? Because another thing with freelancers is that maybe you don't even know how much you're expecting to make in the next 12 months. But it's better to at least within the history and things that have that in the history and in the past period, you've filed your tax returns and you've made sure that everything is up to date. Provisional tax returns every August and every February. These are people who are trading under their own names. You are not trading as a company. You haven't registered a company or anything. You receive money in your own account as yourself. Even when you talk to clients, when you attend MCing gigs, when you attend singing gigs, when you attend whatever gigs that you do as yourself and people pay you, those are the things that I'm addressing. That's income that you are generating outside of employment, income that when you receive it, when it's paid in your account, no one has ever mentioned anything about tax. It's money before tax. Think about it. No one operates outside the grid. We are in South Africa. We are South Africans. All of us are responsible for taxes. We need to abide by the law. This is the law of the land. Guys, I look forward to hearing from you. Please let me know in the comment sections. I will take questions. I'll answer all your questions free of charge in the comment sections. And yeah, if you do have anything that you'd like to talk to me about, feel free to reach out. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you in the next video.